Will Donald Trump give us Tomahawks and allow them to hit Russia? And how is the Kremlin grasping at its last hopes of survival? This and other topics we'll discuss right now. My name is Iryna Uzlova, and today with us is Michael Sheitelman, political strategist. Michael, hello, glad to see you sincerely. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Iryna.
So we see next topics that Keith Kellogg, the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy, told that the decision on potentially providing long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine has not been yet made. But are we giving them the Tomahawks? The journalist asked the Special Presidential Envoy. In response, Kellogg emphasized that the decision to transfer these missiles has not been made and lies exclusively within the competence of the United States President. Well, that decision hasn't been made yet, but he asked. I know President Zelensky did ask for them, which was confirmed in a social media post by Vice President J.D. Vance. And really, J.D. Vance says that the United States discussing Tomahawk missile transfer to Ukraine. The U.S. is discussing the possibility of supplying NATO Tomahawk missile for transfer to Ukraine, but the final decision, really it's true, will rest with President Donald Trump, told Vice President J.D. Vance Fox News, and he added that Russian Federation ignores all peace efforts. So what and why the United States can give these missiles and other to Ukraine, and how the United States assess Russian behavior? Let's listen to J.D. Vance and come back.
Our view is we want peace here. We've been actively pursuing peace from the very beginning of the administration, but the Russians have got to wake up and accept reality here. A lot of people are dying. They don't have a lot to show for it. How many more people are they willing to lose? How many more people are they willing to kill for very little, if any, gain in the military advantage on the ground there? I think the answer is hopefully not that much, but certainly our attitude here is we're going to keep on working for peace, and we hope the Russians actually wake up to the reality on the ground.
The Kremlin press secretary Dmitry Peskov also said that there is no panacea that could currently change the situation on the front for Ukraine. Really? But I think that Kremlin is afraid about such decision. And how do you assess? Will we see Tomahawks on front line?
At least yesterday we had really a U-turn point in American policy about Ukraine and about supplying a new weapon. Because with word Tomahawk missiles, we heard first time from American officials. Yeah, we are speaking a lot of time about that, but we are speaking a lot of time when we want and we ask for this kind of missiles. And first time officially we asked exactly 1 year ago, when Ukraine printed out the peace plan. It was not a peace plan, sorry, it was the victory plan. And this victory plan was presented by President Zelensky to candidates, to American candidates, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, as a victory plan over Russian Federation. And in this victory plan, we also saw the name of these missiles, yes. But till yesterday, all these words about these Tomahawks was only from Ukrainian side and sometimes from some newspapers as an opinion, but not the official position. So yesterday, when we heard first from Vice President and afterwards from Special Envoy, it became to be official American position that this is possible, that this is discussable, that this is the something which is lies on the table now. This is on the tables, this question, and never before. This is the first time that this question is on the table. This is very important first turn point. Second turn point in the same speech of Vice President Vance, by the way, not the biggest friends of Ukraine, by the way, somebody who published a lot of articles before becoming to be vice president, that America can't help Ukraine and America can't provide a lot of weapons, etc., etc. And now he is not only speak about supplying a new kind of weapon, but also he put the Russia in the position where before that he put Ukraine. He said Russia should understand their situation. Russia should face the reality. Russia should accept the reality and accept reality on the battlefield, reality of its place in the world, its position in the world and in this war. This is the huge U-turn in American policy, obviously. And speaking about reaction from Kremlin, from Mr. Peskov, it is rather a funny reaction. Why? Because they usually, and President Putin likes to draw some red lines. I remember that in the beginning of the war, the red line was supplying shells to Ukraine. That NATO couldn't supply shells to Ukraine, otherwise it will be the crossing Russian red line, which means usually that Russia should start a war against NATO, against Europe, or something like that. Yeah. Afterwards, this red line moved backward a little bit after the shells to the, I don't remember, to the artillery, for example, to artillery system. Afterwards, the red line of Mr. Putin moved backward to tanks. That tanks will be absolutely red line. But NATO, United Kingdom, US, Germany supplied tanks to Ukraine. Afterwards, HIMARS, afterwards F-16 and other jets like Mirage from France. And now it is the queue of new kind of missiles Tomahawk, which has a range of 2.5 thousand kilometers, which means that all the European part of Russian Federation will be under this strike of these missiles. Yeah. So this time, speaker of Russian president, Mr. Peskov, he himself removes this red line and he says, no, it's okay. You could supply. We are not antagonists of this decision of Mr. Trump. So this is very funny to observe how red lines they just removed by President Trump. Yeah.
But will this change the political situation around the negotiation process?
It changed the situation around negotiation process. If a couple of weeks ago, everybody in the world looked to Putin and towards President Zelensky as, with the same attitude, like what is your step and what is your step. So now it is official, now it is not the opinion of Ukrainian leader that the guilty of stopping this negotiation process is Russia. And also, this decision was publicly made by J.D. Vance, who said Russia ignored the negotiation. Russia did not send any delegation to negotiation with Ukrainians. Russia did not send their president to threesome negotiation between Trump, Zelensky, and Putin. So Russia is guilty of stopping negotiation process and continuing the war. And that is also a very important point. And we could pay attention to the Russian reaction, which was before these statements, which was after the statement of President Trump about the new situation on battlefield, etc., etc. So Russians, they tried a lot. They really tried hard, very hard, to draw the attention of United States, of President Trump. And they tried, for example, the statement of President Putin about the missiles treaty, the strategic missiles treaty, which was made about a week ago. And what was the reaction from White House? It was very surprising, but the reaction was zero. Total ignorance of the statement. Total ignorance of this statement. And this was statement where President Putin wants to start a discussion about this treaty, but Americans just ignored that. The same ignorance was on not so direct statements by Russian Federation, which was made by Lavrov, foreign minister, or by mentioned Peskov, or by President of Belarus, Mr. Lukashenko, who said that he has a new peace plan. And this is the peace plan of Putin and Lukashenko. And Lukashenko said that he wants to speak with President Zelensky, etc., before he will meet Putin. Just let's start from meeting with me. And Americans did not react just by any way. And I could compare with what happened in May. May, it was June 4 or 5 months ago, yeah? 4.5 months ago, when Russian President Putin said, I want to start negotiation in Istanbul on May 15. So immediately we had a reaction from President Trump. Immediately we had a post on social network that you Ukrainians, you should immediately accept this offer and immediately you should go to Istanbul. Now, when President Lukashenko speaks about peace plan or something, we have zero reaction from White House and just ignorance also by Kit Kellogg, also by Vance, and also by President Trump, and by the way, also by Mr. Witkoff. Yeah, so we have no reaction from American side. That is the most important, that this is the strategy. By the way, there is no reaction from Europe. Nobody in Europe, nobody of European leaders said, Zelensky, you should speak with Lukashenko. Nobody. It means that this decision which was made by Trump and European allies. They decided now the next step from President Putin should be the meeting of Putin with Zelensky. You don't want this meeting, we don't have a negotiation with you.
Lukashenko is Putin's lapdog. We understand everybody, and everybody in the civilian world knows it.
Yes, but everybody understands a lot of things, but if you're, American side, for example, when American side was in the strategy of negotiation by any price, yeah, and to continue negotiation by any ways, it was the first policy of President Trump administration. So now we could see that this is a vice versa policy. No negotiation till Putin is not ready to go to direct dialogue with Zelensky.
Yes, and we see that therefore there are no key topics because Putin only wants to big scale of war bigger and larger, and he doesn't want to stop this war. He thinks that he can change something on the battlefield, but the reality another. And but Putin is scared of Zelensky. He hates Zelensky. So I think that not only in the nearest future, but in a few months, we won't see this meeting between Putin, Zelensky, or between Putin, Zelensky, and Trump. So what will be next steps and scenarios? Stronger sanctions, all weapons to Ukraine through NATO support?
As President Zelensky said on the meeting with President Trump on UN General Assembly, he said that President Putin cares about this meeting, but he cares not personally from Zelensky. I now quote the President Zelensky, yeah? But he cares about all of this situation, about to speak about peace. Then President Putin does not want openly, and he is not ready to openly speak about peace. Why? Because he wants a so-called peace agreement which absolutely not follow the international law. That is the point. And to claim something, when Putin claims something, he claims something which is not, which is against international law, which is against the statement of United Nations. That is important point. So this is the reason why Putin, not once by the way, said openly, we want negotiation, but we want negotiation under the closed doors and not the open negotiation. He doesn't want meeting because meeting, it means press conference, it means public positions from both sides, and this gives the stage to President Zelensky to say, wow, our position is accordingly to the international law. What is your position? That's the point. So this is a point why President Putin is totally not ready to this meeting. But what is the next step? Next step from Russia, we don't see any steps. Starting from meeting in Alaska, which was, by the way, 2 months ago, almost 2 months ago, we had this meeting in Alaska. No, it was a month and a half ago. Yeah, and till from this moment, we did not see just any steps by Russian Federation. Not any new ideas, any new plans, just nothing. Just nothing. And obviously now only some third part from outside, some outside force could remove Putin from its position. It could be weapon, it could be new sanctions, and it could be China. It could be China. And really, I more believe on as a next step. I believe in China more on the new sanctions. Because next month, President Trump will have a meeting with Chinese President Xi. And they had a conversation with President Xi. And this conversation was also about the war between Russia and Ukraine. And it is it is in hands of Chinese president just to stop supply anything to Russian Federation. For example, what happens in battlefield now? If you follow the statistics of the damaged weapons, the statistic of damaged weapons, so we almost don't see any tanks. We almost don't, from Russian side, I mean, we almost don't see any other technique, let's say, because Russians, they don't have it. They don't have on battlefield any tanks now, because tanks is useless now because of FPV drones, etc., etc. So mostly they use bicycles. This is the most important weapon of Russian Federation is bicycles. Russian forces, they go forward on bicycles. And these bicycles, they are Chinese production, not Russian. Russians, they don't know how to produce bicycles. So also to stop supply bicycles, for example, from China, this could stop all the Russian attacks on the battlefield. This is just as one example, one small example, but very, very important. And you could give hundreds of such kind of examples. Then Russia just can't to continue the war without Chinese supplies of just anything, electronics, materials, any technological decisions, because they don't know how to produce cars, for example, etc., etc. So yes, and FPV drones, by the way. So now it is in hands of President Xi, and it will be on the table on the negotiation between Trump and Xi.
Yes, but we know that really you are quite right that Chinese leader can stop Putin and helping him to provide this cruel war. He can, but he doesn't want to at all on this stage.
Just a second. He has a price. It doesn't mean that he will do that for free. And President Trump goes to this summit. I don't remember. This is the summit in South Korea, I believe. They will meet one another. Pacific Ocean Summit, something like that. Mm-hmm. And President Trump knows that President Xi wants a prize.
Sorry, it's the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, these countries of this ATEC. And Trump will... Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So President Trump knows that President Xi will ask the price. What is the price? I, from my position, just can't imagine, because I really don't know. But we could see that on the first direct negotiation during the second term of Trump presidency, they immediately got to some result. And this result was selling TikTok, social network TikTok, to American investors. And they really closed this deal. Nobody knew if they could success to close this deal, that American part of TikTok will be ruled by American investors and American companies, and the TikTok technology will be lent to Americans. That is very interesting, and this is the very good sign. of the possible deals between China and US. And they will discuss not one deal, not only deal about Russia and Ukraine. Russia-Ukraine war will be part of biggest deal. And biggest deal is also tariff war and also Taiwan. What will happen? Taiwan fate, let's say. Yeah,
Yes.
we could say Taiwan fate, Taipei fate, and maybe some other issues, some other business issues, and something which I just don't know because I'm not the so big specialist in China.
Yes, really, Xi Jinping is seeking a major concession from Trump. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Chinese leader allegedly wants the US president to oppose Taiwan independence. Like one of such topics, not for free, really, and to understand. So we'll see here, but how now can we assess that Crimea and other more than 20 regions of Russian Federation are suffered from gasoline collapse, really? And from day to day, the situation comes only worse.
Yeah, that's the good news, and this is the good news for Trump. He heard about that obviously first time, and immediately he used it the fact that Russians they don't have gasoline in Russian territory, and in occupied territories like Crimea, and in real Russian territory, and it was the good news for President Trump. He said that in his internet post that his goal now, American goal now, is that Russian population, he believes in Russian population now. He does not believe to Putin, not believe in Putin, yeah, but he believes in Russian population. We also, by the way, did this mistake at the beginning of the war. We believed in Russian population. Now we don't believe we believe that is the same thing, Putin and Russian nation. But President Trump believes that he could divide that and to took Russians from Putin. And he said in his post that Russians should know that lack of gasoline, for example, and lack of another goods and high prices and all economical problems, they connected to the war. And this is the reason of these problems. This is war. This is the Russian-Ukrainian war. So it means Putin is the reason of their problem. So now this is the reason why Trump wants Ukraine to strike Russian territory, to strike oil refineries, and at the end to strike Moscow and St. Petersburg. He mentioned that in his phone conversation, with President Zelensky, that he wants strikes on Moscow and St. Petersburg. Why? He is good PR manager, President Trump, I mean. He is very good in PR and in marketing, and he wants to sell this war to Russian population, to Russians, and to sell it to Moscow citizens and to St. Petersburg citizens is possible only by strikes to the center of the city of Moscow and in St. Petersburg. Like, for example, in Ukraine, everybody in each city know what is the war exactly, because Russia, during 3.5 years, bombing city centers of all big cities in Ukraine. So the same should do Ukraine with Russia. And Ukraine started that, by the way, yesterday. Then Ukrainian army struck electricity power station in Belgorod, which is rather big city. This is the regional center in nearby Ukraine. And now Belgorod is in blackout, and total blackout afterwards. And it is just a model how Ukraine could organize the blackout in Moscow. Blackout in Moscow, the city of 10 million people, it will be something like a catastrophic situation in Russian Federation, and it will be very, very difficult to renew the electricity in Moscow region. But for that, Ukrainian army needs something which we started from, and this is the missiles Tomahawk.
And if it is a blackout in Ukrainian capital of Ukraine, Kiev, the Moscow will see blackout exactly. President of Ukraine Vladimir Zelensky promised it a few days earlier. So if Putin doesn't stop his war, he will see all consequences of it. Michael, thank you very much for this conversation, for your true and interesting comments, for your opinion and position. See you next week. Take care.
Thank you, Iryna. Bye.
Michael Sheitelman, political strategist. My name is Iryna Uzlova. Guys, thank you for joining us, for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels, Michael Sheitelman and War and Politics 24. See you next week. Bye.